Welcome to today's lesson on the associative property of addition and multiplication. The associative property is a rule in math that's all about grouping numbers together. It's easiest to be shown when you're using pictures, so let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to use the picture below to group different numbers together in an equation. So let's go ahead and walk through this. We have over here 1 red jelly bean and 3 blue jelly beans. So in an equation, we would write that as 1 plus 3. Now I put parentheses around this because this is one group. Now we're going to add this group to our group on the right, which is 2 yellow jelly beans. Now if we were to add these numbers together, 1 plus 3 plus 2, we know that we have 6 jelly beans in all. We have 1 red, 2 yellow, 3 blue. Let's take a look at the other half of our equation over here. We have 1 red jelly bean, 2 yellow, 3 blue. So we still have the same number of jelly beans and we have the same colors of jelly beans. We're just changing the groups. So we know these amounts are equal since we have the same number and same color of jelly beans. But now this red jelly bean is in a group of its own. It's no longer in a group with other colors. So we have 1 here, and we have a different group to the right now. So in our parentheses for our second group, we have 3 blue jelly beans plus 2 yellow jelly beans. And if we look at this, we still have 6 jelly beans in all. We have the same colors, but we've just changed the groups that they're in using parentheses. So the associative property tells us that if we're using addition or multiplication, that we can group numbers differently using parentheses. So if we wanted to write an equation for the associative property using variables, we would write it as A plus B in parentheses plus C. And we'd say that that amount is equal to A plus, in parentheses, B plus C. Now we're going to look at the associative property and see how it works mathematically. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this problem. We have 2 times 45 times 8, which is in one group, and we're saying that that's equal to 2 times 45 in a group times 8. So first we're going to solve what's in the parentheses. 45 times 8 equals 360. 2 times 360 gives us a value of 720. Now, if the associative property works, it's going to say that this grouping has the same value as what's on the left. So these numbers, when we multiply them together, should have a value of 720. Let's see. 2 times 45 gives us a value of 90, and 90 times 8 gives us a value of 720. So we just proved that the associative property works. And again, the associative property is just grouping numbers differently. So this side is saying we have 2 groups of 360, and on the right it's saying we have 90 groups of 8. Even though we still have 720 as a whole, we're just grouping the numbers differently. Now that we've worked through an example together, let's go through a practice problem. Remember, when we're working with the associative property, we're going to be using the same numbers, we're just grouping the numbers differently. For example, for this first equation, we have 12 plus 6 in one group plus 5. An equal amount to this is a group of 12 plus 6 plus 5. Again, we have the same numbers, but we're grouping them differently. Now, I want you to note that you can also change the order of the numbers as long as you're keeping the same numbers on the same side of the equation. So we have 12 plus 6 in one group plus 5 on the left-hand side, and that's equal to 12 plus 6 plus 5, now grouped on the right. Let's go ahead and look at the next problem. We have 13 in a group on its own, plus 8 plus 2 grouped together. That amount is equal to blank plus 8 in a group, plus 2 in a group on its own. Again, we're going to be using the same numbers on the left-hand side as on the right-hand side, but we're going to group them differently. So we have 13, 8, and 2 on the left, which means we need to have 13, 8, and 2 on the right. You have done such a fantastic job with your practice problems. I want to give you one more challenge. I'm going to write part of the associative property in an equation, and I want you to finish the equation for me. Now, to help you out, I'm actually going to give you the formula so that you can check your work. All right, here we go. The first part of the equation. 3 plus 5 plus 2 is equal to, now you're going to write the second half of the equation. Go ahead. All right, let's go through and check our work. We had 3 and 5 in one group together. And now we're going to have the 3 in a group on its own. So we're going to rewrite the 3 plus, and that leaves us with 5 and 2 to put into a group together. So we have 5 plus 2. Great job! Are you ready for another one? This time I'm going to give you the second half of the equation, and you have to write the first half. 6 plus 2 plus 5. All right, go ahead and write the first half. Well, since we started with 6, and that's in a group in its own, we're now going to group the 6 with the 2. So they equal a group of their own. And that leaves us with the 5 to now be in a group on its own. Fantastic work. Let's go ahead and review what we've learned in today's lesson. We know that you can use the associative property with addition and multiplication. The associative property is all about grouping numbers. So if we group 6 and 3 together, we're still going to have the same value if we were to group 6 and 8 together, as long as you're still only using addition within the equation and you have the same numbers on both sides of the equation. The same works for multiplication. If we were to group 9 and 2 in the left-hand side of the equation, and then we were to group 12 and 9 on the right-hand side of the equation, we would still have an equal value on both sides of the equation, as long as the numbers are the same and we're grouping them differently. And that's the associative property.